How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to discuss the ban list, the implications. What does this even mean, and is it good, is it bad, is it mid, is it even worth it? Before we begin, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe if you are new as always. And the dust has settled since yesterday, and I wanted to I wrote down a few notes for myself on the ban list, what I actually think about the ban list. Is it good? Is it something that will hold up? And is it even solving any problem at all? So let's start with the so-called problem, right? I think we all know who is or what is the elephant in the room, and it is Shizu tier limits. I think that this is seeming like a tier 0 format. We have over 80% representation in top cuts in the past two YCSs when the deck is actually legal. And yeah, it's a tier 0 format. I don't think there's any arguing that the deck is extremely strong. However, a few things. One, a tier 0 format isn't necessarily bad if the deck you're playing is somewhat fair and is even countered by the same deck. So in tier 0, you will have the same decks going one up against another, and you know, sometimes it's a die roll. If you win the die, you just win the game because the deck is so oppressive. Tier Limits is not that kind of a deck, in my opinion. I think Tier Limits in a tier 0 format environment is actually a very, very fair deck. And I think we've seen that, and it has been proved in the YCSs, and especially like, you know, the finals, when we did see, or like the top cut matches, when we did see the mirror matches, it eventually came down to skill. I just moved the entire table. It eventually came down to skill, and you saw that even though the two players were playing the same deck in a tier 0 format, it came down to skill, and it was actually a lot more fair than other matches or other matchups that we've seen in those top cut matches. I think that tier 0 doesn't mean bad. I haven't played this game long enough or experienced a lot of format to testify what actually it feels like to be in a tier 0 format, but I think in a Shizu tier limits, this is not the case. The deck didn't need to be hit by bringing in more floodgates into the game. I don't think the right thing to do when it comes to game design is to bring back everything that hard counters the deck, but by the masses, and giving access to unhealthy plays against a deck that is actually healthy if you play it, right? We've seen Florendrees get to a top spot. We've seen Draco Slayers. We've seen some Sprite. We've seen other decks. Obviously, Tier Limit to Shizu is the best deck, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to bring in more unhealthy things back into the game in order to counter it. And we'll see in a second why in the long run it won't even matter once we get Photon Hypernova. But this is the so-called problem that this list apparently, presumably, came to solve. But let's start with the most, I think, obvious thing: Mystic Mine. I think I'm not gonna speak too much about Mystic Mine. I think this was it's a bit too late to ban this card. However, I think this card probably will never see the light of day again. Will never come off the list ever again, in my opinion. And again, a card that shouldn't have been printed in the first place, and now getting what it deserved. I think it's a good list. It's a good hit. And I also think, and this is something that I said in my predictions video from the past format, is that Konami doesn't want people to see feature matches, to watch feature matches that they invest a lot of money in covering, and seeing Mystic Mine slapped on the field and being some sort of a meme. I think that they have thought that they could do this for a while, but they ended up kind of giving in to the pressure, and I think it's a good thing. I think this card, the main problem with this card, in my opinion, besides everything else that you already know about the card lowers the skill gap by a lot. This is why you saw decks like Altergeist in top cut matches in recent YCSs, because it takes a less skilled player, and using this card, it brings him or her up to a level where they can actually compete in top tables. simply by slapping this card on the table. It has been used strategically in stuff like Joshua Schmidt's Power Spell Sprite, where you go into this game 1, going second, protected with the beat cop from the underworld, or the link, whatever her name is, and then you side it out. You don't play it anymore. It's a stun strategy because the card was legal. So people who wanted to win used it. So I think good riddance. This card shouldn't exist. It has a lot more problems that people actually realize. But let's go on to the only limit on this list. Oh, actually, we have another banned card. Sorry, I have the extra deck down below. Curious. Again, this is very much too little too late. I'm wondering if this list was conceived during the format prior to Ishizu, when this card was actually played, and like Danger Tier. This is like sort of a Lavalval chain kind of effect with additional mills. Unhealthy when you have cards like Tier Elements. Shouldn't probably be in the game. It makes sense to ban this card. A bit too late. I don't think that leaving it unbanned would have been a problem, to be honest. But maybe with the Dark World strategy, maybe there's something there. Danger, stuff like that, coming out cheap. But I also think that Beatrice, who is now probably, arguably, easier to summon than Curious, went on unscathed. So I'm not sure I understand the reasoning behind banning Curious at this point. But I understand where it comes from, obviously. Okay, moving on to Orange Light. This is again one of the many things on this list that is supposed to weaken tier limits without hitting a single card with tier limits in its name. We saw it with Sprite getting an indirect hit with Ronin Totem, which actually did a deck a favor probably because it made people play Runic Sprite, which actually took a YCS. Herald of the Orange Light is probably the only way to protect tier from Dimension Shifter. And this is why they wanted to reduce it. You're not going to draw it, you're not going to see it, and you're not going to be able to negate the shifter. And then basically your whole game 1 is screwed. So again, this hit empowers Dimension Shifter. It doesn't hinder the tier strategy, in my opinion. It's just a weird indirect hit. But we'll get to what maybe should have been hit on tier limits a little bit later. The next card that I want to talk about is the semi-limited Lyrilusk Recital Starling. It has been limited in a few formats ago when you had the Berry Statue lock with the Bird of Sovereignty, the Smorg, the Link 3. This card is a soft once per turn that searches your entire engine, can search hand traps as well. What this does, together with Tenki, is bring back some power to the Tri-Brigade strategy. I don't know how much it will actually give the deck, considering you have tons of Floodgate that banishes, which is also problematic for Tri-Brigade. But in this environment, I don't even know if it's going to do that well. But we've seen two things to bring back Tri-Brigade to the spotlight, and I'm not convinced that I don't think these are bad. I think these are fine. I don't think these will actually do much, but we'll have to wait and see. Just because of the fact that a lot of other things are also at 3, like Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos also at 3. But another problem that I'm identifying here is this card, Harpy's Featherstorm. If you don't know what this card does, if you control a winged beast monster, you negate any monster effect your opponent controls for the rest of the turn. You can chain this to an effect, negate that effect, and everything else in your opponent's turn will be negated, or even on your turn if you want to activate it on your turn. This is another thing that is going to be, might be a little bit more problematic with, we're seeing this list giving a huge boost to Flandres, and this card as a main floodgate piece in Flandres just increases their power level more, and now Tri-Brigade with the birds can actually utilize this as well. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of it, but I think that probably will be the main problem. Let's look at some unlimited cards. This is the first one. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. This card, if you don't know, originally was banned because you can go into Cyber Dragon Infinity very, very quickly and easily with this card, which today doesn't sound that good, especially with the amount of resources that you can that you have to use for this. But at the time, it was very good. Why did this card come off the ban list to 3 just now? My assumption is that Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond is the reason. So with Ptolemaeus, you can special summon an Xyz monster with a rank higher than this one. This is a rank 3, this is a rank 5. What this card does, besides other things, while this card has an Xyz material, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard, and any card that returns from the graveyard to the hand is banished instead. Again, this is going in the same pattern as affecting Tearlaments with more floodgates that ruin their strategy, instead of actually hurting the strategy itself, which we'll get to as well. Decks can abuse this. Decks can go into this, and like everything else that you're going to see on this list, Dimensional Fissure, Cosmos, this card, Featherstorm, these are all empowerments for things that just, poke holes in Tearlaments, instead of actually figuring out if Tearlaments is problematic and what makes the deck itself problematic, and not how can we leave everything unbanned, unhit, unlimited, and bring back a lot of crap that hurts other things as well. When you go to locals, which is what probably is your Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament experience 95% of the time as a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, you're not facing 10 Ishizu Tearlaments. You want to bring your cool strategy or your fun deck. Obviously, you're not supposed to win, but you're going to have to face those things. And a lot of people don't play Ishizu Tier, and they're going to suffer for Tearlament sins, if you may. So this is another Band-Aid solution for Tearlament Ishizu. Then we have these two cuties. Dimensional Fissure, continuous spell. Any monster sent to the graveyard is banished. Macrocosmos is a full-on shifter. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished. This is not how you design a ban list when a deck is problematic. This will make, and also very extreme, bringing those two from 1 to 3, I think is very, very over the top. I don't think this is how you solve problems in Yu-Gi-Oh! By slapping more floodgates and giving the more skill-less decks. I'm sorry, Flandres players. I don't think that deck takes as much skill as Tearlaments Ishizu or other decks for that matter. And you're just giving that deck more tools to hinder a strategy that is not entirely unfair. Especially if you play that strategy, it's not that unfair. There is a lot of ways to counter Tearlaments today. It is the strongest deck, but is that a problem? There are going to be strong decks. So if Konami just wants to prevent the Tier 0 format, this is what they do, obviously. I forgot another card here, actually, on the list that I want to talk about next. And it's Metaverse. I did actually predict this card coming back to 3 if Mystic Mind gets hit in my prediction video. This is exactly what I said. I put it at 3 if Mystic Mind got banned, which in first glance will make sense. But let me just turn your attention to these two. Necro Valley, which is again probably a part of Konami's plan, right? You bring back a card to 3 that can search this, place it on the field, and not allow the deck to play. Same for this card, Secret Village, another very nasty floodgate that could be played in decks like Exo Sisters. That doesn't contribute anything meaningful to the game. It doesn't take the game forward. I think seeing tier elements play, it actually makes you feel really good about being a Yu-Gi-Oh player, in my opinion. It makes you feel great that you're part of this very complicated, intricate game. And now, look at this row. Look at this. Is this the game that we want to play? I'm not 100% sure. I think Metaverse is borderline bannable, and I think bringing it to 3 is an absolute joke, in my opinion. Let's talk about a few cards that didn't get hit. We got these guys. If you want to hinder or limit tier elements in any way, you take this card to 1. You maybe limit or semi-limit one of these shufflers, this or Medora, and you limit this card. This is what eventually happened in the OCG. I don't remember if they had any more hits, but I think maybe Sharon was semi-limited. But you limit this, you limit this. The deck has so much power, but you just take it down a notch. This doesn't hurt only the mirror match. The shufflers hurt other decks as well. If you want to play branded, you better not play through your graveyard because everything will get shuffled. You of course have like the Ishizu tier elements mirror match is such a good mirror match because everything counters each other. The decks counter each other incredibly. But if you lower the consistency of the deck, other decks can participate in that battle as well. You understand what I'm saying? This is a huge miss for me. I don't like Fluenderies. I did play Fluenderies when it first came out, and I kind of quit the deck once Advent of Adventure came out because I wanted to play branded. This deck got this at 3 still, this at 3, this at 3, this at 3 for this, and it is inherently unhealthy to the game because it relies on floodgates, not skillful play or technical play. And you give this deck so many tools, and you know this is the second best deck right now because of how oppressive it is, and because it can run this without even caring. And you don't hit the map at least to 1. At least. You know, you bring out Metaverse to 3. Hit the map, limit the map to 1, maybe hit the barrier statue. This deck can still rely on crap like this, right? But no. This is going to be the second best deck. It might take the throne. I'm not sure. But this and Ishizu Tournament is going to be the best 2 decks. Another thing that didn't get hit that I forgot to put here is Artifact Scythe. I don't think it's that bad anymore, but this is a step in the right direction. This shouldn't be in the game. I don't think this should be in the game. If you side this in going first with 3 Sanctum, it's pretty much GG on the spot. There's no arguing that, like, once you get Scythe Lock and lose a turn, it's really hard. Maybe they didn't ban it because Fluenderies is popular and it doesn't really, interfere. But again, like, these cards shouldn't really exist. Last thought on the list is that this card comes out February. I don't know when in February, but it comes out in Foden Hypernova. If you don't know what this card does, It's an Xyz, it's this Kashtar Xyz that you can access very, very easily. Don't be fooled by the 3 level 7 monsters. This card says, where does it say it exactly? Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead, period. This comes out in 3 months. Why do you need these at 3? If this is the competing strategy to Tearlaments, why do you need these? You know how much crap we're gonna eat until they bring these back to 1? Because they're not gonna leave them at 3. There's no way. Currently in the OCG, they also unlimited them because, I think, because of the same reasons why they did it here. But I'm gonna wrap up the video saying that, in my opinion, this is not how you build a ban list. And furthermore, the only problem that they took care of was this card. Everything else is still very problematic. I think this is all for me. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this ban list. We had the reaction. It was very quick. I really wanted to upload it fast because I found out about it like really early. And I wanted to get my reaction in, but this is like I'm taking it in after a few hours of thinking and writing some notes for myself on what I actually think about this list. And I would really, really appreciate to hear your thoughts and input on my thoughts and on the list and the future of the game currently. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you are new and want to see more content like this. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.